Have you ever found yourself in a discussion where, even after pouring out every word you thought needed saying, you walked away feeling defeated? Have you felt that tightening knot in your throat, as if each spoken word stripped away a piece of your inner strength? Perhaps you're surrounded by people who dominate conversations, loud voices that interrupt, mock, or wield arrogance cloaked as confidence. Deep down, maybe you've believed that staying silent was a sign of weakness, that not defending yourself was surrender, that not reacting meant losing. But what if I told you this is an illusion? True power lies not in the clamor of words, but in their absence. Nietzsche, one of history's most misunderstood philosophers, saw a truth few dare to face. Those who speak excessively reveal their vulnerabilities, and those who feel compelled to convince are already at a disadvantage. The world conditions us to believe every conversation is a battleground, where we must fight, explain, and defend our ideas to prove our worth. But Nietzsche proposed a different path, one subtler, more lethal, and infinitely wiser. He saw silence not as the absence of sound, but as an overwhelming presence, a force that disconcerts, destabilizes, and compels others to confront their own insecurities. This message is for you, the one who feels ignored, overshadowed, or invalidated. For you who leaves conversations feeling unheard, despite your efforts to be understood. For you who is exhausted from being the easy target, the peacemaker, the one whose calm is exploited. You may have mistaken your silence for submission, but today I'll show you that silence can be your most formidable weapon. True victory doesn't come from winning arguments, but from rising above the need to engage in them. Prepare to see silence in a new light, not as a lack of response, but as the ultimate response. Let's dive into Nietzsche's philosophy and learn how to master any situation without uttering a word. Why do we feel compelled to respond, to rebut, to correct, to prove we're right? Deep down, we've been taught that truth must be defended at all costs, that silence equates to letting others win. Nietzsche saw this as a symptom of our deepest frailty, the fear of appearing weak. Behind this fear lurks the ego, a fragile construct that perceives disagreement as an attack, turning every discussion into a battlefield. Nietzsche argued that most people don't argue to seek truth. They argue to assert power, to shore up beliefs not because they're solid, but because their collapse would unravel their entire sense of self. Argumentation, in this view, isn't a pursuit of wisdom. It's a defensive armor, a desperate plea from the ego to control the narrative. When you feel driven to justify yourself, to prove your point, you've already stepped into their arena and lost. The need to validate your position reveals a trap, the craving for acceptance, for external validation. Nietzsche called this herd morality, the behavior of those who live tethered to others' expectations, striving to be seen as good, correct, or just. But this pursuit of approval is what keeps you weak. True strength, Nietzsche taught, lies not in persuading others, but in not needing to. It's in holding fast to your vision, unshaken by laughter, criticism, or rejection. It's in being misunderstood, yet standing firm. He proposed a power not measured in verbal triumphs, but in internal mastery, a power that grows when you remain calm while others unravel. To truly win, you must see discussion as a theater where the first to act is already lost. Nietzsche knew the reactive mind is enslaved. The observing mind is the dangerous one, free from the need to prove anything. But how do you exert power without words? How do you make others feel your strength without a single phrase? Nietzsche's answer lies in the ideal of the Übermensch, the being who transcends conventional morality and commands the world through absolute self-control. In the next section, we'll explore this figure and how it embodies silence as a weapon of dominance. Are you ready for the shift? Because from here, silence begins to speak. If this resonates, subscribe to the journey. Thank you for joining me. Nietzsche didn't write for the timid. He wrote for the rare few who dare to confront their inner struggles and forge them into strength. The ordinary person, he said, is trapped by conventions, moralism, and the need for applause. But there exists another, a rare, dangerous, free being, the Übermensch, or Overman. This figure doesn't react to the world, they shape it in their image, often in profound silence. The Übermensch doesn't waste energy on petty debates or emotional games. They observe, understand, and choose their words with precision, or more often choose silence. They've grasped a truth others overlook. Silence is a language, not of persuasion but of presence. It's not empty. It's a force, a threat, an authority, the sound of self-mastery. While others shout, the Übermensch commands respect with a glance. While others explain, they reveal others' weaknesses through their calm. Their silence is a fortress, leaving those on the outside desperate to decipher what lies within. In that desperation, others falter, reveal too much, and lose their balance. This silence isn't passivity, it's strategic control, an economy of energy. The Übermensch knows every word spoken is a move exposed, every reaction a vulnerability laid bare. They remain silent not from lack of words, but from transcending the need to prove anything. Their presence alone speaks, unsettling others by forcing them to face their own noise. In a world of chatter, those who master silence reign supreme. Nietzsche envisioned the Übermensch as one who creates their own values, rules, and morality, unbound by the need for validation. This independence is what makes them feared, untouchable by guilt, fear, or the need for acceptance. Their silence is a shield, and when they speak, their words carry the weight to shift empires. But why does silence unsettle others so deeply? Why does a refusal to react provoke such discomfort? The answer lies in psychology, and we'll explore it next. Because to wield silence's power, you must understand the chaos it stirs in others' minds. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's a mirror, reflecting truths many find unbearable. When you choose silence, you force others to hear their own voice, to face their arguments without the crutch of your response. Most people don't speak to express, they speak to protect, to convince themselves, to mask the gap between their words and their true selves. Your silence strips away their disguise. Social psychology shows that in confrontations, silence is perceived as judgment. The speaker feels exposed, insecure, as their brain's amygdala, tied to fear and anxiety, kicks into overdrive. They project their fears onto you. Are they judging me? Do they see my doubts? Are they onto my bluff? Silence becomes an invisible blade, cutting where no one sees but all feel. Nietzsche understood this before psychology confirmed it. He saw most people as slaves to their impulses, reacting from vanity, speaking from fear of being forgotten. The superior spirit, the self-mastered, stays silent, knowing each word given is a piece surrendered to the enemy. Silence devastates manipulators, who rely on your reactions to maintain control. Without your response, they unravel, revealing their own weaknesses. Silence also stirs deeper wounds, traumas of rejection, abandonment, or humiliation, because it signals that their words lack impact. This is intolerable to the narcissistic ego. Silence requires strength, not just for its effect on others, but because it defies your own conditioned urge to react, to justify, to explain. That defiance is what makes it powerful. It demands mastery, and mastery is true power. Now that you see how silence disrupts others' minds, it's time to wield it intentionally. The next section will show you how to transform silence into a conscious weapon, winning arguments without a word. The first step is brutal. Stay silent when every fiber of your being screams to respond. This takes strength, as the urge to justify yourself is poison, revealing you're still swayed by others' opinions. True silence is born when you realize you owe no one an explanation. The truth exists without needing to be spoken. The second weapon is observation. While others drown in their own words, listen like a hunter tracking prey. Catch the fears hidden in their tone, the contradictions in their logic, the insecurities masked as bravado. Store these insights, so if you speak, it's with surgical precision, cutting to the core of their emotional terrain. The third weapon is time. Let silence linger. The pause creates tension, and tension is power. As others wait for your reaction and find none, their discomfort grows, their minds filling with doubt and paranoia. A single glance paired with silence can outweigh a dozen eloquent sentences. The fourth weapon is unpredictability. Mastering silence makes you unreadable, and the unreadable is feared. Others lose their footing, growing cautious, second-guessing their words. You shift from reactive to the center of gravity in any interaction. This silence isn't absence, it's dominance. But beware, this isn't passive silence. Nietzsche rejected weakness. This silence is active, charged with intent. You're not withholding, you're strategizing, positioning yourself with a strength that needs no display to be felt. When the moment is right, a single precise sentence can end a discussion, not because it's loud, but because it's undeniable. Yet there's a darker truth. Sometimes the game isn't about winning, it's about surviving emotionally. Some people don't just debate, they manipulate, train, and dominate you, feeding on your silence. You may think you're avoiding conflict, but they're building empires on your restraint. Nietzsche saw this clearly. What you call peace is often your surrender. Have you noticed how some exploit your calm, pushing their will, taking your space, knowing you won't push back? You convince yourself it's not worth fighting, that harmony matters more. But this false peace cost you dearly. Nietzsche spoke of the slave morality, a system where the weak conform, diminish themselves, and feel virtuous for it. This is the trap, accepting a silence that swallows you, shaped by others' expectations. You become what they need, not who you are. The true will to power, Nietzsche argued, isn't in shouting or dominating others. It's in mastering yourself. It's in reclaiming your narrative, staying silent not from fear but from strength, owing nothing to anyone. This silence of submission must die, replaced by a silence of presence, one that doesn't bend, doesn't apologize for existing. It stands firm amidst chaos, shifting the situation without a word. This is the silence Nietzsche would respect, the silence of one who has become their own master. But how do you reach this level? How do you break free from manipulation and embody the Übermensch? The answer lies in becoming one who creates their own values, who reigns through silence. We've reached the final truth. Silence is not absence, not emptiness, not a gap between words. It's pure presence, mastery, the sign you're no longer reacting but shaping the world with your existence. Nietzsche wrote for those who transcend, who tear off society's masks despite the pain. The Übermensch's silence isn't that of the oppressed or the coward. It's the silence of a warrior who's won before the battle begins, who knows who they are and what they deserve. Reflect on your life. How often have you stayed silent out of fear, guilt, or to avoid disruption? How often have you let others speak for you, trample your truth? Enough. Nietzsche would call this an offense to existence itself. Your silence must become an invisible shout of authority, a boundary, an affirmation of your being, even if no one understands. You don't need to be understood. You need to be lived. Do you have the courage for this? Then declare it. I choose the silence that commands respect. Share this commitment below, not just to mark your journey, but to affirm it to yourself. Words, even about silence, hold power. Don't stop here. The next step awaits to push your mind further. Embrace it, not for me, but because you deserve to transcend. Remember, the weak shout, the strong remain silent, the wise choose when. The world doesn't honor those who merely speak. It reveres those who command through silence. So I ask you now, are you ready to wield this power? If you've reached this point, I want to see who has truly grasped the truth. Declare it below. I choose the silence that reigns. Let's see how many of you understand what it means to stand unshaken, to shape the world without a word. If this journey has shifted your perspective, if it's lit a spark to rethink your silence, like and subscribe, because this is only the beginning of your transformation. I'll meet you in the next chapter. And never forget, don't be another voice lost in the noise. Be the one whose silence writes the rules.